Well, on Republic Day, India looked sharp in the field, incisive with ball in hand, and certainly the result showed in terms of the number of runs put on by New Zealand, despite winning the toss and deciding to bat first. My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live just to analyse that first innings, 132 for 5 in their 20 overs. Seifert ending up the top scorer, 33 not out of 26. Guptill started things off, and it looked as if that partnership early on with Colin Munro would get them to something far more competitive than 132. Well, in the studio, Padma Shri, Zaheer Khan and Harsha Bhogle, you'd have to say that were they almost looking for 230 when the fact that they got here, or was it the surface playing differently?
I don't know. I'm not an expert on surfaces, let me be honest. But I get the feeling Williamson read it well, because the pitch report said loaded with runs. It didn't look like loaded with runs. But the question is, if Williamson did get his right, the pitch right, in choosing to bat first, have they got enough runs? And on any surface, my feeling is 131 is always short, whatever surface you're playing on.
And the lowest total ever defended here successfully is 165. So it does look, I mean, from any point of view, below par.
Well, you just try and analyze the innings of New Zealand batting, how it went. You know, they're pretty much on par by end of the power play. You know, they were going really well, putting pressure on Indian bowlers. It was the continuation from what we seen in the first match on this track. So I think somewhere they lost the way after that that power play. Maybe, you know, failed to understand exactly how to go about in that middle phase when the pace is off on the ball, and that is something which was a concern, you know. So they were heavily dependent on someone like Williamson to see them through in that phase, you know. In T20 it's always about, you know, these situations that passage of play which determines, and you need someone to play that role. And I think they were heavily dependent on Kane Williamson to see them through that phase, because he's their best player of spin. I think even if there is some kind of help from the wicket for the spinners, which Ravindra, Jadeja took full advantage of, you know, you have a similar kind of bowler in New Zealand setup. You know, Santner is as good a bowler as Jadeja at this level. So you can't really use that as an excuse that, okay, you know, someone just came out of the blue and we didn't know how to tackle that. I think New Zealand batsmen are equipped to tackle spin. They have a leg spinner, they have a left arm spinner. So with that regard, I think that's not an excuse for them to go and say that, okay, you know, in the middle phase we didn't have the answer to the spin twin of Indian bowlers really putting that pressure. So I think, you know, somewhere they need to dig deep and say that, okay, you know, they failed, they lost their way in that middle phase of the innings. I still felt that, you know, it was 170 plus kind of a wicket, even though there was some kind of more help on offer than the previous match. But I think they should have got to that 175.
Yeah, look at those middle overs. Williamson 14 of 20. Ross Taylor was the interesting one. 18 of 24. I actually think he hit air more often than he hit ball.
So aggregate that, 32 of 44 between Williamson and Taylor, and 105 in the previous game of 53 balls.
So whichever surface you play on, is there any T20 surface in the world where there's 32 or 44? I mean, this track cannot suddenly become like those Ramosham twins. Suddenly there's one identical twin, one good boy, bad boy. It can't go from good boy to bad boy overnight that much. So my feeling is we have to look back and say, what did India do right? And I think India have bowled magnificently on the surface. Look at the bowling figures. Jadeja, the kind of bowler requires a surface, so that might suggest that the surface was tough. But 4 overs, 2 for 18, he's bowled 9 dot balls. Look at Bumrah. Bumrah is fantastic today. 4 overs, 1 for 21. Shami's come back and bowled a magnificent 19th over. I think the bowling has made the track look what it is. That's my gut feel at this stage.
And just the reversal, I mean, looking at Shami, for an example, 4 overs for 22.
53
Previous game, 53.
Yeah.
And it almost looked as if, okay, are we going to give him a break? Did he have a really bad day? But overall, collectively, not just the bowling, but you could see the intent in the field. Let's forget Kohli's dropped catch. That was an anomaly. But you could see everybody in the field, Chahal included, especially those who may have had an off day in game 1, were up for the task.
Well, it's a very important part of a bilateral series, isn't it? you learn quickly and you adapt as quickly as possible. And if you're playing on the same surface, it actually helps you prepare better. And that's what we've seen from this Indian bowling lineup today, that the learnings of the previous match was implemented here. You've seen it with the kind of lengths which they were bowling. Today, yes, the into the wicket slower ones were offering a bit more help than the previous one. But I think in terms of lengths, they had done their homework very well. And someone like Jadeja, the moment there is a little bit of help, he's suddenly on top of the batsman, and that's something which we got to see today. But I think the planning and the preparation for today's game in terms of homework by the Indian bowlers were just spot on. I think they were keen on going out there, executing those plans, keeping things simple. And if you see, there was a certain bit of proactiveness as well, in terms of how they shuffled their bowlers. Bumrah started with the new ball in the first match, being used in a very strategic manner in terms of putting that pressure, because on a good track you need your best bowler to bowl those tough overs, and that's something which was proactive thinking by the Indian think tank.
And Harsha, sometimes you talk about learning when you come off a defeat and you say, yes, we lost the game, therefore what are we going to set right? But here it was, having won the game, there was no complacency. Yes, we won, and we won well, but what are the areas we could have improved on? And they did.
But also see the great advantage of having a sixth bowling option. Held Jadeja back, then he realized Jadeja is bowling all right, I'll go through with him 4 overs. He could only do that because he had a sixth option, that even if it's just 2 overs, he still had that sixth option. And I think that made a huge difference. But Zach is right. The moment there's something in the track, then Jadeja's a different bowler. And they kept losing wickets, as you saw on that graphic. Kept losing wickets all along. What it also does is 132 means 6.5 and over, 6.6 and over. It gives the batsman time to play themselves in. I've always believed Rohit Sharma is at his best when he's got a little time to play himself in. This is perfectly set up for Rohit.
It certainly is, and you just overall look at it in terms of body language. We said about the fielding, we said about the bowling. Yes, you've talked a lot about also this extra bowling option. I mean, today Shardul Thakur may not have been at his best. Yes, the batsmen were coming hard at him, but he had the option to say that, okay, I don't have to go back to you if I don't want to.
Especially in this format. I think this format is all about adding that variety. It's about not because batsmen usually line the bowlers up if they're bowling consecutive overs, and I think to break that, if you have a 6th bowling option, you can achieve that in a better way, because your initial first 4 overs or 5 overs and the back end 3 overs, 4 overs are pretty much set, right? You know that which bowlers are going to take that responsibility. Even if they're going for runs, you want them to bowl because they're specialists of those positions. So the freedom which you have in terms of rotating your bowlers in that middle phase, possibly from the 7th over to about 16th over is that the option as a captain you need. And in that, if you just have 5 bowlers, then at times it becomes you can get stuck in terms of giving the bowler consecutive overs. And in this format, you've seen batsmen are very quick to adapt and line themselves up to put the pressure on bowlers. So I think from that point of view, it's important to have, and Virat Kohli somewhere is understanding of this fact. And usually teams have left and right hand combination as well. You don't want to be in a scenario where the left hander is batting to left arm spinner and taking them apart.
Yeah, so well, the boxes have been ticked in terms of bowling and fielding. Just one final thought before we get our prediction for the My 11 Circle Expert Couch, which of course, thanks to New Zealand sort of losing their way in India bowling so well, none of us were anywhere even close to it.
How far away were we? I think that will put things in perspective as well. I think I said 190, didn't I?
190, I was 199, you were 180.
No, I was 183, sorry.
Yeah,
183, you was 180, you were 190. Yeah.
199.
Doesn't matter. What I'd like to see now is how do India react to this? Do they think it's gettable? So let's play safe.
That was going to be my final question. So Rohit Sharma, you said, will take his time, but otherwise do you say we still want to go hard as if we're chasing 160?
Don't want to go over safe and suddenly find the asking rate going to 8.5 and over. I always believe in a run chase, and that's the difference with Virat and Dhoni. Dhoni didn't mind chasing from behind. Virat always likes to keep pace with the run chase. So I'd like to see India keep pace with the run chase.
So I reckon that 6th over will be very telling. How do India approach the power play? Hence, our prediction for the My 11 Circle Expert Couch will be even more telling. So maybe I'll just go first and throw in a number here. I'll go in with the very same number I had the other day. 10 and over, exact 60.
10 and over 60 in the first 6 overs.
six?
Yep.
I would go with 40 because I mean look at how the tactics were from the New Zealand captain in the previous match. You know, they'll start with Santner, and this wicket may offer a bit of a turn. Rohit will be cautious. So is KL Rahul, I think, in those first 6 overs, because the target which they're chasing is well below par. You know, so they will not be rushed initially. They will think that okay, if we have wickets in hand, we will be able to chase down the total. So I think 6 overs, 40 runs. No loss is something which I'm looking at.
I was going to go 39, but I'll go a little up now.
Smack in between us?
I'll go sort of go 44, 45, 45.
45, 40, 45 conservative. Come on, boys, get it on. Let's get some boundaries in there. I need to get something in there. 60 runs, but maybe that's not necessary. It's just about the fact that if they're allowed to do so. Again, just after that power play on the 10th over will be Cricbuzz Combox. I'll be in the company of Jadeja to see what we think. And at the end of the game, My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live to what should be another Republic Day win for Team India.